And we continue to follow breaking news in Skamania County tonight and the Tunnel 5 fire, which has burned an estimated 10 homes on the Washington side of the Columbia River Gorge. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm David Molko. Let us give you a look. We understand hundreds of homes remain under evacuation tonight in the Underwood area. This is west of White Salmon and across from Hood River. Highway 14 on the north side also remains shut down. For the very latest, let's get right to Alma McCarty on the Oregon side of the Columbia. Alma, I can see the glow of those flames right behind you there.
Yeah, David, as the sun went down, in addition to all of that smoke that we've been seeing here all afternoon, we started to see the hot spots behind me a lot more clearly, just due to the fact that it's nighttime. There's not a lot of light out here. And you can see that there are plenty of them on the hillside. Now, evacuation zones and levels at this point have not changed as fire crews continue to try and knock down the Tunnel 5 fire, which at this point is 5% contained and spans about 530 acres.
Hazy conditions Monday night on both sides of the Columbia after a day where more than 250 personnel fought the blaze in the air and on the ground. Officials estimate at least 10 homes have been lost to the Tunnel 5 fire burning west of White Salmon near Underwood, including Sean Aiken's rental property.
I watched the whole thing. The planes were hitting it with the retardant in the water like over and over, and nothing you could do. It just raged, and they just let it burn to the ground and fought it elsewhere, basically.
Firefighters working to clear overgrown vegetation with focused efforts to protect more homes from the flames.
There's only so much you can do. You know, I could worry, but it's not going to really change it. So I'm just glad I'm on this side of the river, so at this point.
With drivers diverting to the Oregon side, with Washington's State Route 14 still closed.
There's been quite a few fires here.
Gary Johnson spends his summer here, windsurfing and hiking, and remembers flames near the Dalles and the devastation of 2017's Eagle Creek fire.
The winds haven't been that strong, so I wasn't terribly concerned about it jumping the White River. If it jumps the White River, then we got a problem. But absent that, I don't think it's quite that serious for us. It is for the people that are there, of course.
Very humbling to just see it happen.
Reed Vandenberg lives up the road in Stevenson. Thankfully, he says, well out of the fire's reach.
I came out and I saw the plume, and I came down and I spent the next 6 hours sitting here watching the spectacle and the intense efforts of the firefighters. Hopefully the winds die down, we get a dew count, and we ain't gonna get any rain, but we can pray.
It is worth noting tonight that the cause of this fire is still undetermined, but Hood River did cancel its planned 4th of July fireworks show due to the fire that's happening now in the gorge. It is also worth noting that fireworks on the waterfront are not allowed to be set off. David?
Yeah, a really good reminder, all things considered here. Thanks, Alma. Appreciate your reporting. Stay safe out there. Let's bring in Chief Meteorologist Matt Zafino now. Matt, rain, that is not happening. What about the wind? Is that going to cooperate in the next 24 hours?
Yeah, Reed's right. There is no rain coming our way, and I think the wind will be cooperating overnight tonight anyway, and for part of the day tomorrow, too. In the Portland area, they're light and westerly. Out in the gorge, pretty much the same thing. Hood River showing a south wind right now, interestingly enough. Kind of drainage flow coming off the mountain there. Winds along the river also quite light, and they'll continue to get lighter as we go through the evening hours. We're going to see a wind switch during the day tomorrow. We've had westerly winds today. If you've seen any of our reports and live shots of the fire, you saw the smoke plume getting blown from west to east. Well, tomorrow, east winds are going to develop, but the good part of this is the strongest winds will already be downwind of the fire. Here's Hood River. Here's Carson. The fire is right in here where the winds are actually going to be quite light and out of the east. So two things there. As the wind switches direction, you tend to get a period where there's really not much wind at all. So that's good. The other good thing is if you get an east wind after it's already been a west wind, well, the fire will eventually get pushed back over areas that have already burned, potentially. That could be good as well and help to slow the spread of the fire. Now, as we go through time, the east winds pick up a little bit as we go into tomorrow night and on Wednesday. But again, the strongest east winds are going to be downstream or west of the fire, so that should help. We'll get lighter east winds out around Hood River than we will towards, say, Cascade Locks and Trout Hill even. There is a fire weather warning up for the Washington side of the Columbia River in Skamania County, but not on the Oregon side. So bottom line is this: lighter winds overnight, strong east winds tomorrow, but they're going to be strongest to the west of the fire. and then we'll see west winds return Wednesday night and Thursday, and that's going to be a lot stronger, the wind speeds out there, than any east wind that we get overnight tonight. Also been watching the smoke. We got a great time lapse for you of the smoke from our camera in the Dalles. East of that fire is getting rather hazy. David?
All right, thanks, Matt. We'll see you in a few. We also want to tell you about the aftermath of another fire, this one along the coast on Sunday near Waldport. It did not damage any property. It was contained to half an acre, but the state fire marshal said crews found mortar shells from fireworks not far from where this fire started tonight. They are sharing this warning.
Try to just remember, even with the store-bought fireworks, your legal fireworks, do them on gravel and dirt, at least 50 feet from any grass, vegetation, brush, trees, any of that.
Yeah, even better, they say, with these hot, dry conditions. Check out a professional fireworks show instead. By the way, speaking of heat, it sounds like with the current forecast, Multnomah County is not planning to open any cooling centers. Libraries will also be closed tomorrow for July 4th. Health officials remind us, they say while young children and the elderly are typically the most impacted here, anybody is susceptible, reminding folks to drink plenty of water, to seek shade, and to limit your outdoor activities.
I see young, healthy people who are sick from heat all the time in urgent care. What you do see are a lot of dehydrated people, a lot of heat exhaustion and heat stroke.
Experts say people with lung and heart problems are also at high risk and remind us all to check on our neighbors and make sure they are okay too. Stay with KGW for continuing coverage of the heat and the Tunnel 5 fire. Updates available anytime, of course, at kgw.com and on the KGW app. Let's get you caught up on tonight's other headlines now, including a hit and run in Clark County in the Mount Vista area. Sheriff's deputies say 23-year-old Rocky Lovelady was speeding near the WSU campus on Northeast 29th. Authorities say he crashed the van he was driving into a retaining wall. You see it there, flipped his vehicle, and then sent debris into a parked car outside a home. Police say the suspect ran, but they found him using a drone and canine. They took him to the hospital where they say he assaulted staff who were treating him. Lovelady now faces charges that include assault, DUI, reckless driving, and hit and run property damage. In national headlines, in Philadelphia, 4 people are dead and 2 children injured after a gunman opened fire. Police say the suspect was wearing body armor when he apparently randomly targeted people with a semi-automatic rifle over several blocks. Authorities say a 13-year-old and 2-year-old boy are in the hospital in stable condition. Police say they believe they have the shooter in custody. This marks the country's 29th mass killing this year. And back in the Rose City, police say a second victim from a shooting June 23rd in the Hollywood neighborhood has now died. Officials say 25-year-old Isida Homan Ikoria died on Friday. He was found shot in the passenger seat of a car on Northeast Sandy and Cesar Chavez Boulevard. The driver, a 29-year-old Gresham man, died at the scene. No arrests have been made. Well, rerouted MAX trains, yellow crime tape, and shots fired just steps from Portland's living room. That is after a federal security guard who works for the U.S. Marshals Service shot a man on the steps of the historic Pioneer Courthouse. Our Blair Best looks into what led up to that gunfire and how neighbors reacted.
The Monday morning bustle at Pioneer Courthouse Square was seemingly routine.
39!
What wasn't routine was the large police presence on one side of the square.
This morning at approximately 6:31 a.m., officers from Central Precinct responded to a report of a shooting here.
Law enforcement officers say a man was trespassing, trying to get inside the federal Pioneer Courthouse, when he assaulted a federal court security guard. The guard, an employee of the United States Marshals Service, shot him. They were both taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Jason Rourke was there.
I heard 2 pat-pats, and I was like, whoa, Oh yeah, they were tussling pretty aggressively, and like I said, the suspect was getting the best of the security guard.
Since it involved a U.S. Marshals Service employee, the FBI and U.S. Attorney's Office were on scene for the investigation.
It's Monday morning. It's the day before 4th of July. We're in downtown Portland, in the heart of the city, and this is a U.S. Marshal Service employee involved shooting. So it's being treated as any other officer involved shooting, which is why you see the large response here.
Maybe I'm too desensitized. I don't know. Not really moving the needle, unfortunately.
Ben works at a food truck in the square, across the street from where the shooting happened.
They weren't sure if we were going to be able to open.
Julia Dahlin's train to downtown was rerouted because of the shooting.
Courthouses and sort of public buildings, I view as like very special, unique places in our community, and so it's scary when like those are violated.
She's visiting from the East Coast and sees this as an example of an alarming trend happening nationwide.
And I think like across the country, a lot of people who work in public service jobs that seem very safe are like having more threatening situations.
Blair Best, KGW News.